Welcome to the Tennis Junkies Pod, the tennis hub for all things rackets, string, coaching, interviews, and more.
Hey there, fellow tennis junkies. Today I have a really special one. I'm talking today with Kevin O'Neill, who is the coach of Caty McNally, current number 93 WTA ranked singles player and current number 21 WTA ranked doubles player. She is also known for McCoco, which is the McNally and the Coco Gauff doubles team. So you guys have probably seen that Caty McNally name before. I was really excited to talk to Kevin today. He gave a lot of really good insight, and you'll hear a lot about his positive outlook on the sport. And honestly, I wish I had the chance to get out on court with him and for him to help me out a little bit. I know that kind of positive attitude would really help out me in my mental game. But yeah, hopefully you guys learned something from this one. I'll check back in with you at the end of the interview, and I hope you enjoy it. Let's get into it. Awesome. Okay, so I kind of wanted to kick it off going back to your college experiences. So can you tell me a little bit about you playing back in college?
Yeah, when I came out to college back in was '86. I graduated high school. I was like John, Katie's brother, was #1 recruit in the country, and I ended up going to Clemson University. Chuck Creasy was the coach then, and I had some friends on the team that I knew well. One was John Sullivan. He was from New York, and then there's some other guys. Brian Page, Craig Boynton, who also coaches on the ATP side. He coaches Hubie. I knew those guys, and I got to know Craig really well at school. And my roommate was Brian Page. So anyway, decided to go to Clemson instead of staying at Stanford or UCLA. I mean, I always wanted to go to UCLA, but it just wasn't the right fit for me at the time. And went to Clemson. It was fortunately for me, my dad was a pilot with United Airlines. So being a California boy, getting back there and to come home was quite easy with flying a pass and whatnot. So that was one of the reasons I wanted to experience something different. And the school was good. The tennis program was good. They were one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the country at the time. And that's one of the reasons I went. It was actually, I had a great experience. I mean, Chuck and I at the time, probably we butted heads as far as how I was trained. My personal coach was Steve Stefanski, and it's just a little different. So I ended up transferring after 1 year to Pepperdine University with Alan Fox, and that was great. And Alan and I got along great, and we're very good friends to this day. And he really helped me out as a player and also as a coach now. And so that worked out. But I had a great experience at Clemson, even though Chuck and I we butted heads from a tennis standpoint, philosophically probably, but he was just definitely different than Steve was. And for me, it was too far to go at the time to school in South Carolina, Clemson, South Carolina, and not get along and see eye to eye on some of the things about tennis with your coach. But I love the school, root for them to this day. And actually, kind of funny, big kind of a circle, but one of my very good friends at Pepperdine University, Robbie Weiss, who's now the head coach at Clemson University. So I haven't had time with the tour and stuff to get over there to visit him and stuff, but we talk periodically and are quite close, and he's going to do a great job there.
That's cool. Yeah, it's cool you've had a diverse experience, not just staying at one place all 4 years or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it really helped that having grown up flying a lot and flying around with my dad being a pilot and stuff, that really helped. And it made, I guess, we live in a fairly big country, but it made the country small. And I mean, I remember flying home on Thanksgiving for Thanksgiving weekend, and that was just 4 days. A lot of the people didn't even go fly home. I went all the way home. But it wasn't a big deal to me. And flying in a pass, it didn't cost that much for me to do that. So that was one of the reasons. And it was a great experience. And little did I know I'd be living in South Carolina in part of my life. And now that I live here. So
cool.
Kind of a small world.
Yeah. So I'm kind of curious on how you got into the coaching space. And then I read an article saying you did some club coaching and then moved into the professional world. So if you could kind of explain a little bit how that transition happened, that'd be awesome.
Well, after I was done playing and finished playing, and played for about 3 years and had varying successes, but I just needed to go back and finish my degree. I had a girlfriend at the time. Her mom was a teacher, and they were really kind of helped me decide and kind of pushed me to go finish that degree. It's something important for you to do. And I kind of wanted to do it anyway. And it was the right time for me to go do that. And went back, finished my degree, and it was actually the first time in my life I got straight A's in my life. So that was pretty cool. So I really enjoyed going back to school. But while I was at school, I started teaching and coaching just to make a little extra money. And I had a couple of professors that I actually taught at school, and then one other coach at the team. And he thought I did a great job coaching. He said, "You should think about coaching." And so both professors that I coached said, "You're a really good coach. You should think about coaching and teaching." I said, "Yeah, right. I'm going to go to law school." So as soon as I graduated, a friend of mine was going to run a club out in the Hamptons, and he needed some help. And I thought, it'd be a good experience for me to kind of teach and coach and to see if I liked it, and be a great experience to live in New York, on the Hamptons, but to just experience the East Coast and the snow and stuff. We don't have that where I grew up in California. And so I decided, let's do that. So as soon as I graduated, I drove out to New York and started training and coaching out there in East Hampton, Long Island, and actually enjoyed it. I have a lot of really good friends out there, and I just I've came to realize that I didn't want to do that type of coaching. And I had the people that I coached, I had a lot of really good people, really nice people, and the ones that really wanted to learn how to play, they were easy to coach. But I had so many people coming out in the Hamptons that they just wanted to hit with an ex-pro player, somebody that's a good player, and they don't really want to learn. They just want you to hit with them, and that can get kind of boring. And I started feeling like, what am I doing? My mind is turning to mush and the whole thing. And then, fortunately for me, Paul Anacone was one of the owners of the club, and he kind of encouraged me to coach. And he was coaching Pete Sampras at the time, and I knew Pete from the juniors and whatnot. I'm a little bit older than him, but I used to go and train down in Southern California on weekends. And I grew up most of my time, I grew up in Sacramento. My main childhood, I was born in LA, but moved to Sacramento. But I'd fly down sometimes and train. And Dennis Rizzo was a very good friend of my family. He'd see me at tournaments, and he coached another boy that was my age, Woody Hunt. But he also coached Pete Sampras a little bit when he was younger. And so I'd practice with him and whatnot when I was younger. So anyway, Paul's now coaching him. He encouraged me to, you should be coaching at the pro level. It'd be great. You can play, and then you have so much information. And then Steve Stefanke, who's my coach, he had coached Paul on one of his Junior Davis Cup teams, and so he knew my coach, and he really said, "Hey, this is something you should look into." Then a little while later, Martina Navratilova came into town and needed somebody to practice with and hit with. And so I practiced with her for 4, 5, 6 days. And we were talking, and she said, "But you'd be really good coaching on the tour." Blah, blah, blah. And next thing you know, started thinking about it. Steve came out to the East Coast for a funeral, somebody that I met through Steve and had passed away. And at the funeral, we went after the funeral was over, we went to lunch, and I started telling him what I was thinking, the whole thing. And all he said to me is, "I was wondering when you were going to make that decision." And so basically after he said that, I stayed in the Hamptons till October. So I was there a full year, and I decided to move back to California, and I started coaching him as an independent coach. And with the help of Steve and also his brother Larry Stefanke, I started to coach on the tour. But I started to coach nationally ranked kids and taking them to the national tournaments and stuff. Did some zonal stuff for Northern California, and then it was the NCTA. Now it's just USTA NorCal, but did some stuff for them. Met other coaches, a guy named Dave Borelli who coached at USC in Southern California, and he won about 8 or 9 national championships there. And then gradually, with that's Dave and then Larry and Steve, I started coaching on the tour gradually, and from various players. A guy named Irakli Labatzi, who was an extremely talented guy from the Georgia Republic. He was number 1 in the world for a little bit. Another young lady named Arota Chuliaganova from Tashkent, Uzbekistan. She was up to top 15, top 16 in the world. She was number 1 junior in the world as well. So I helped her and I helped him. And that's when I knew this is what I really wanted to do. I mean, being around those type of people, and then the people I have as my foundation is Steve and Larry and Alan Fox. I mean, I talk to Alan periodically. I haven't talked to him in a little while, but periodically we're talking about players and sports psychology and stuff, because he's written some great books on sports psychology. So that's kind of how I kind of transitioned into coaching.
Cool.
It wasn't something that was, I'm going to do that. I thought I was going to go to law school, but I'm glad I actually went with my gut and what I felt like I wanted to do, and it was fun, and I really enjoyed it. And then the rest is basically history. I mean, I've been very lucky with the players I've worked with, and especially now working with Caty and her brother, and they're just really good people and a good family and whatnot. So it's really been special.
Yeah, it's really cool to hear that you had a lot of push to kind of push you in that direction. And you had a lot of support behind you whenever you're trying to make those decisions.
Yeah, I mean, Steve has really helped me. I mean, I talk to Steve once a week. I mean, Steve's been one of my coaches. I've had some other gentlemen who are really, really good coaches. I was very fortunate at my club. The coaches and people we had around in the junior program at Rio de Oro Racket Club in Sacramento they were great. Just really good people. A guy named Jack Donnell. He was like a genius. He eventually went into the Navy and did stuff with computers and submarines and stuff, but he was really, really smart guy. And then another gentleman named Tim Monroe was a very good player back in the day in California, and he taught me a lot. But these were just really good people. And then Steve came along, and then Steve was my main coach, but those guys still helped me. And I had really good people to show me the way kind of in coaching and teaching and whatnot. And so I've been very fortunate in that regard.
Very cool. Nice. So I kind of want to transition and talk about you and Caty's coaching relationship. It seems like there's a lot of info out there where you're talking about her success and her matches and things like that. But I kind of want to talk more about your coaching philosophies and how you handle that. So in an article I was reading, it was saying how you describe tennis as a game, trying to keep it lighthearted and fun, which can be really difficult. So I was kind of curious, how do you keep spirits high whenever things aren't going well, whether that be like travel, the money, like potential burnout? Like, how do you kind of keep it up?
Well, I mean, that goes back to Steve and my coaches I had when I was younger. I mean, you have to keep perspective. I mean, yeah, this is our job and this is our careers and stuff, whether you're playing or coaching. And I'm fortunate to do a little bit of both, but it's still a game. I mean, if you watch baseball players or the NBA guys, they're playing. They want to win, but they're also having fun. I see a lot of smiles out there. I don't see people just look like they're drudging through the day. I mean, I guess if you're in a batting slump, you might be, trying too hard. But we know that in tennis, when you're going through periods where you're not winning, even though you're practicing right and you're working really hard, but you're not having the success in a match. So that's going to happen sometimes. We're human beings. We're not robots. So if you can keep that perspective, but you got to keep working. And I mean, Caty's went through something this year where, she was struggling a little bit, but she was actually practicing really well and she was doing all the right things, but she's more struggling for herself mentally and how to look at things and keep in perspective. But eventually things sort themselves out. And, her mom's a great coach in her own right. And between myself and her mom and her brother who's played, and getting advice from people like Steve and Alan Fox. You just work through it. It won't, nothing. One of the things Steve always used to say is nothing stays the same. If things aren't going well, it's not going to stay that way. So don't dwell on it. Keep working, keep looking, staying positive as you can be, and keep looking for the next day. And try to stay in the moment you're in and do the best you can, and then keep looking positive for the future. And usually things will end up working out because we're going to grow and learn at some point. And Caty has grown and learned, and there'll be ups and downs along the way. But if you keep the right perspective on things and you're trying, I mean, the one thing, if you're trying and you're trying your best, things will work out, and they usually do.
Yeah, that's a great perspective. I think for any level of player, it can sometimes be difficult to keep that. So keeping perspective in mind is, yeah.
Well, I mean, it doesn't matter if you're playing for pros or you're a beginner, you're playing tournament. It doesn't matter what level. Club player, just doesn't matter. Just as long as you're playing and trying, and you have a good perspective and you're having fun doing what you're doing, even in a loss, you can still have fun playing, have fun competing. Yeah, I'm bummed that I lost the game. Maybe I didn't like the way I played. I didn't play well, but there's some good things I did. So I can pick on those things I did well and try to work on some of the things I didn't do well and move on to the next day and keep trying to get better.
Yeah. You were talking a little bit about mentality and some like mental struggles, because tennis is such a mental game. I was kind of curious, do you guys, you and Caty, or even you and John in the past, do any mental based training, like in particular throughout the season, or is that something that's just kind of sprinkled in throughout the typical training?
I think basically it's I mean, even with a coach, myself, or somebody like Alan Fox, Caty's worked with a sports psychologist in the past, and you're constantly doing that. I mean, it's not just, technique and tennis and stuff. You're constantly doing that, trying to keep the right perspective, looking at things in the right way, trying to stay positive. I mean, if anybody's seen my Instagram, it's mostly all positive stuff. I mean, but I don't know, really. I mean, I know one way doesn't work, and being negative and down really doesn't work. And you're not going to be a happy person. So, and I think everybody wants to try to at least be as happy as they can be more often than not. So as positive as you can be, yeah, that's going to work itself out in the end. So it's just something that's a daily thing. And it's also the player themselves, they have to go through it. I mean, they gotta ask questions. They gotta be reading things, reading books and whatnot. I mean, Caty's a real student. She really wants to be good. I mean, she wants a player that to last and be out on the tour. If she can be 15 years or more. I mean, she's capable with the way she plays doubles as well. So that's the kind of player you want to be, because that maximizes your income. If you can play that long and that longevity, kind of like a Martina Navratilova or Chrissy Everett to that extent. So if you can have that mindset, and then you're trying to always better your craft. I mean, Roger Federer, Caty's always loved Roger. Here's a perfect example. He's kind of and Rafa. I mean, a little bit different styles, but very similar in how they look at things and how they look at life. And that's really a great role model for especially Caty's generation to look at and go after their game in that way.
Definitely. I was kind of curious. So you were telling me the other day that you guys are heading off to Orlando for a training block. Can you kind of take me through like a day-to-day in something like a training block day?
Well, Caty's down there right now, working out with her trainer, Rocket, and she's doing 2-a-day fitness and just grinding and getting ready for the new year. I mean, it's kind of like tennis players have a short off season compared to NBA or Major League Baseball or NFL, where ours is much shorter. And the other thing is, for tennis players, we're playing all over the world. It's not just staying in certain countries. We're all over the world. So it's just getting your body ready for the rigors of the travel and trying to make improvements so you're maybe a little quicker, a little in better shape so you can last longer. But it's going to be that's a constant. I mean, in the gym training, it's a constant. Just you get to focus a little bit more and go a little longer on that now because you're not no tournaments or things like that.
Okay, cool. So like you're saying 2 a day fitness sessions. Did she do like 2 tennis sessions a day as well?
Yeah,
Or
not this week. When I get down there, we'll do 2 tennis sessions, and she'll go one training session, and we might
okay,
do a combination of one of the tennises with training on the court with Rocket as well.
gotcha. So like, do these training sessions are they typically like match play based, or are they like drill based, or is there like more of an emphasis on strategy?
No, I mean it's going to be a combination of all those things, but I mean the one the one strategy that we like to play is a lot like Roger and stuff. Is we like to take time away and get forward and be aggressive, and doesn't mean you're going to get all the way to the net necessarily, but being a combination of Caty's more of an all-court player, but an aggressive baseliner that's looking forward to an all-court player that can use slice and different things, serve and volley. That's more Caty, but it's a combination of that, and always trying to be aggressive and taking it to your opponent, or taking, you're just playing the ball. So just making sure you're going after your game, the game that you like to play, that makes it fun for you to play, that makes you happy inside. That's really the ultimate goal. And you'll know if you're not playing that way, because the game will be a little bit more boring, or you'll be playing longer points and it'll be more stressful, because as the points get longer, you might get a little tighter. People tend to do that. I remember when I was at juniors, I would get tighter as the point went longer, because it seemed more important now because the points going longer. So, but I mean, Steve was always a really good one in my mind as a kid. He said, no, this is how you play. This is what you're trying to do, and this will be the most fun way to play. And I grew up in the 80s, same with Lynn, all court players. You need to be an all court player, because you're playing on all the surfaces. An all court player can play on all the surfaces, and they can adapt much easier. If you're an aggressive baseliner, but you don't have a slice, and you don't have volley that well, or you don't volley that well, yeah, you're an aggressive baseliner, so you're going to be taking swingers and stuff, but you don't have some of these other shots. So it's going to be much more difficult to be able to do some of these other things. So that's why for me, and Steve drilled it in my mind, but as I see the game, if you're an all-court player, you can play on all the surfaces and have success. And that doesn't mean you're going to win the tournament every time or anything like that. But if you look at guys like Roger Federer, Rafa's turned himself into really an all-court player. I mean, people will think of him as more of a aggressive baseliner per se, or even some people might think he's grinder, especially when he's younger on the clay. But I mean, he's won so many Frenches. But if you watch his court positions and stuff, and he takes time away from his opponents so well. Joker's done that. He's become more of an all-court player. So that's really, to me, the best way to play. And it's the most fun. But it also takes a little bit longer too. Like Pete Sampras, Agassi's game was a little more simple than Pete Sampras's game. And Agassi, more or less, when he got on the tour, he shot out wider away, 6 months a year, and he was in the top 20 or 30 in the world, maybe 40 in the world, and took Petey a little longer. But Petey's game with the serve and volley and stuff made things easier for him. He got to have much more free points and shortened points, and that helped him. And he won more Grand Slams. I mean, that was one of the reasons he won more Grand Slams. Andre's obviously really good, career Grand Slam, all 4 majors, but it's a little more difficult. You can't. You're not able to do as much, and you're a little more limited. I mean, you wouldn't think of Agassi as just a great volleyer. He's not serving and volleying. He never really served and volleyed. He can mix it in from time to time, but he was an aggressive baseliner, ripping winners from the forehand or backhand. Great return. Swinging volley, he's the one that really kind of started bringing out the swinging volley, more or less. People practiced it before, but they never really used it like he did, and now everybody uses that shot. So
Interesting. Yeah. And you're bringing in these ideas of different play styles and game styles. I kind of was curious. So you've coached John. who recently decided to retire, from my understanding.
Yes.
Yeah, but you've had experience coaching a WTA player and aspiring ATP player. In terms of game styles, do you notice a difference between the two just because of the different genders on the tour? Meaning, like, are there different play styles that are more dominant?
I think it just more their game styles tends to go to the person's imagination and their personality more or less. I mean, both Caty and John, mom's trained both Caty and John. I mean, I've known them since they were 4 and 6. They've watched me coach Alexa Glotch. We'd stay at their house, and I coached Alexa for about 7 years. And actually, funny story, but Alexa was started by Lynn. And Alexa was from Newport Beach, California, but she lived about 3-4 years in Cincinnati before Lynn was married, started Alexa. And years later, I started coaching Alexa on the tour. She was 15, and we'd go to their house, and because there's no indoor courts in Southern California, and there was indoor events in the fall, we would go to Cincinnati, and that's when I met Caty and John. So
wow, cool.
Kind of
Very
a small little world.
Yeah, definitely. I wanted to talk a little bit about you as a person and as a coach. So, with obviously having a super busy schedule, constantly traveling and things like that, how do you balance your own growth and improvement as a coach while also putting all your energy into your players?
I think that's just an everyday process. It doesn't matter if you're working with a player or not. I mean, you're just constantly always trying to find ways that you can improve, whether it's practicing with her on the court or just talking and about tennis stuff, techniques, play the game. I mean, once you have a philosophy and once you believe in a certain way, and you see other players like a Roger Federer, that way works. You don't really need to expand so much on other areas. Yeah, you know, but I really believe. I mean, it's from what Steve also has imparted on me, Stefanski, that this is how you play. I mean, and there's no he use that word all the time, and he uses it now. There's no compromise. You play this way, and this is a way that you can win Grand Slams, and you can win on a more consistent basis. And if you look, that the styles that are winning are all court styles and aggressive baseline or forward type players. Those are the ones that are winning. I mean, you can win grinding and being a counter puncher and stuff, but you're working a lot harder. And again, we're thinking about your career as maybe 10, 15, maybe sometimes 20, depending on how well you can stay health-wise, like Roger and Joker and Rafa and these guys. But you're going to give yourself a chance to last longer because your body will start breaking down as you get older. And unfortunately, Roger had to retire because of his knee. And he's probably one of the most efficient guys on tour. So some of it is luck too, but you want to be able to play in a way that's fun for you to play. And it's fun where you get a chance to hit winners. I mean, I always loved hitting winners as a kid. It was fun hitting aces and winners and whatnot. So that was always a blast. It was more fun to do that than grind out a 20-ball rally. So, but I mean, you learn how to do both, obviously. But those are the things that lead you to led me to being aggressive as a kid, because that's what I like to do. And that's what I was also encouraged by Steve and my coaches to do. And so, yeah, that's kind of how it develops. I mean, I don't think you push. One of the things from what I've noticed in coaching, you can't really change the personality of a player. That's their actual personality, how they are. And you can kind of massage it around the edges, but when push comes to shove in crucial moments, they'll revert to who they naturally are anyway. And you can really help. I mean, if you're with a player long enough and you're trying to get them to be more aggressive and they really start to trust you, eventually they'll start to be more aggressive. But part of it is going to be their personality as well.
Yeah, interesting. I do find it like coaching up here at the club in Michigan at Hope College. That's a very obvious thing whenever we're working with like these high school groups where their personality often does match their play style. Like the kids that are a lot more amped and like
Right.
go-getters, like they're gonna hit the winner. Whereas the kids that are a little bit more shy and introverted are like willing to rally for like 20 minutes and they don't mind at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I found that interesting. So I was kind of curious with Caty's recent success with this season and last season comparatively on both singles and doubles. Did you guys make any significant changes between the two seasons, like during the off season, or did you guys just continue to stay on the grind doing what was normal?
No, I mean, really didn't make any changes between Lynn and myself. I mean, we talk a lot, but there's no real change. I mean, Kitty's obviously, she's a well-rounded player, and she likes, like we said, all-court player. She's always been a very good doubles player. In the juniors, she's always one of the best doubles players in the world, and obviously, that's really helped her probably also gain some confidence and belief that she can play at these levels and things like that. And she did quite well in singles initially, and not that she didn't do well, but if you watch people, I mean, I tell people this all the time, all the years I've coached professionally, is like, people keep working, they're doing really well, but why did their ranking go down this year? And that's just the way life is too. I mean, there's no really rhyme or reason sometimes why things happen, and it's part of it is just growth and learning how to look at things a little differently, or maybe you were too hard on yourself, and being too hard on yourself affected the way you play, or you're putting too much pressure on yourself that you have to win. I mean, you read every media thing before a tournament. I mean, you have on Instagram, they have people already into the finals who they're going to beat all the way to the finals. I mean, but people look at those. I mean, players will end up looking at those. It doesn't really mean anything, but they never used to do that. So there's definitely on girls especially, I think they take things a little bit more to heart than the guys, but that's out there all the time, and they're being bombarded about that all the time. And they're asked, oh yeah, Katie's had success, but sometimes your success is not being shown. Even though you lost first round, you might have been having success in your practices and starting to get better, and you're really close in the match, but you weren't able to win the technically say the important points or get over the hump in the match, but you're actually starting to do some really good things. I mean, one of the things I was telling somebody recently, when Steve, my coach, wanted me to serve and volley a lot, he wanted me to see the court. So see the court means I'm being able to judge and watch my opponent. Are they backing up? If they back up, I move up a little bit. And if their ball hits up, I'm going to try to take a ball out of the air, clip a volley off, or take a swinger. But I'm looking always to take time away from my opponent. And that was totally different for me back in the day. Yeah, I wanted to win, but I never really thought about it that way. And that's how he explained it. So I remember I played this match at the Fiesta Bowl. It was a tournament during Christmas. It was the second week of Christmas vacation. The first week was the Orange Bowl. But I played this guy. I can't remember where he's from. And I think it was, I lost in the round of 16. It was in a back draw, and I ended up losing this match. But my dad came out and gave me a hug. He said, boy, I really liked the way you were playing. And I said, you did? Because I felt like I really had fun playing the match. Even though I bummed I lost, I really had fun playing. I started to hit a lot more winners. I started hitting more swinging volleys and volley winners. But I wasn't like serving and volleying. I served and volleyed, yeah, but it wasn't me. It was from a ground stroke. Oh, it popped up. I got the guy out of position. He hit it up in the air, and I was able to come in and recognize that, to come in and take a clip volley or a swinging volley. So I started to see these things, and I felt it, but it was really nice. My dad was able to say, yeah, I saw it. And it looked like you're having a lot of fun playing. And so that was really, for me, a big moment for me as a kid. And I think it was my first year of 16s, if I can remember right, that, boy, now I'm really starting to play. And this is what Steve had envisioned when I was 11 years old, but that took me, to 15 maybe. I mean, so it takes time. You don't know when things going to take. And I remember said in an article, I think it was ESPN did an article with Lynn and myself and Caty at Cincinnati, and I made the comparison to the Andre and Pete Sampras Katie's game is more common. There's more shots. I mean, Caty and I and her mom when she's at home, but when we're on the road, we have to work on all the shots: half volleys, swinging volleys, both sides, serve and volley. Obviously, serve and second serve plus one. You have to work on those individually. Then you're doing it within practice matches and stuff. So it's more involved than say somebody that's just an aggressive baseliner, but they don't volley that well. They use swinging volleys and maybe just one volley. Caty might have to do a really tough volley on the service line and close the net out and clip one off. That Caty would have to practice those things, whereas somebody else has more simple style of play, like an aggressive baseliner. Somebody just rips flat. They don't have a slice backhand, so you don't have to practice it. But you can see the difference on some of the girls, especially that they don't have the slice. They can hit a slice, but they don't really practice it. It's not part of their game. They don't want to do it. And so you'll see some weak balls coming back, and then you get to hammer those balls. So that was one shot when Alexa Glotch had a really good slice backhand. I was like, well, you got to use it. She has a good two-hander, but you got to use it. So when you get this little weak ball that sits up, because a lot of girls don't slice very well, then you can hammer it and you can take over the point. So that's one of the things that's why you want to have a complete game.
Yeah, that's interesting. I seeing a lot of college tennis at the D3 level. This aggressive baseliner style of play is very attractive to many of the players. Right. And I personally have been trying to become more all court. And it's been difficult because of that reason, because you have to work on so many more shots. Like you have to become so much more creative whenever you're practicing. And it's not just whacking balls for an hour and a half and it's like, okay, I'm done training. That was a good training session. But I've noticed like the ability to be more diverse in the way you play and having more control over like the point as a whole. So it's interesting that you say that. I feel like that's a really good observation.
I mean, again, it's everybody's individual game. And I think, especially this generation, I mean, there's always been emphasis. Everybody wants to win, but now more than ever, people want to win more than they actually want to have a game. So, I mean, I see a lot in the juniors when I've helped some junior players when I come home and stuff, and everybody's more worried about their ranking than they are about having a game. And Steve always impressed upon me and my parents, but I was fortunate. My parents were really, Steve would always say they were good tennis parents. They just kind of let me be and allowed him to do what he needed to do instead of putting pressure on us that we need results. And he's like, no, results will come. And Lynn understands that too. I mean, Lynn and I kind of the same mold in that regard, and that's why it's just a matter of time. If you're doing the right things and you're working and your player has talent, eventually good things are going to happen. You just have to be willing to keep your nose to the grindstone and keep doing it.
Right. So my last question that I have for you, just kind of for fun, you've traveled all around the world. So what city would you pick that's your favorite and why?
What city? Well, I mean, there's so many great cities. I mean, my favorite, that's a tough one. Mm-hmm. I always come back to London not because I speak English and it's in English, I can easily speak English there, but my first trip to Europe we went to Rome over Christmas, but one of the most fun trips we had when I was a kid, we went with another family. Dad was a United pilot also, and we went to London. And I think maybe because the kids were our age, but it was a lot of fun. And every year I've been back, and I remember I went out to Wimbledon one of those trips, and I think I was about 11 years old, and we went to Wimbledon, and it was all locked up, and my mom was able to talk to this guard, and he said, well, here, I'll let you in and I'll show you around. So he showed us all over the grounds and everything. We went on center court, and I was there and just in awe of Wimbledon in center court. So I would probably say, obviously, London, but I mean, that's probably a simple answer. I mean, Rome's an amazing city. I was a history major, and with all the artifacts and the ruins there, it's an awesome city. And the Foro Italico, I mean, they've done a great job in redoing the Foro Italica, but it's such a beautiful facility. So Rome's a great place. London. I mean, it's hard to say your favorite. Number one, I would say London just because of that. But there's so many great. Melbourne's a great city. Sydney's an awesome city. Auckland, New Zealand. My dad, he used to fly trips to Auckland and Sydney and Melbourne, and he really liked Auckland. Hong Kong was really neat. Back in the day, Shanghai is a neat city. I haven't been to Shanghai yet, but from what I've heard and from my dad was telling me his stories, is a pretty neat place. I've liked Tokyo. I'm not many people will say Tokyo right off the bat, but going to Tokyo was a lot of fun, and I ended up knowing some people there. One of the kids I coached in Northern California, he was born in Tokyo and he grew up in Northern California, but I took him to some tournaments over in Tokyo, and it was a blast. So they showing me around there, and it's a neat city. But one of the neat things about traveling, getting a chance to travel and get to do it as part of your job, is you get to meet so many different people. And one thing I do know, even though, I mean, I've been to Uzbekistan, Caty and I were in St. Petersburg, Russia, been to Moscow before. And when it comes down to people, everybody wants the same thing. Doesn't matter where you're from. They want to just be happy, want to have people they love and to be around. And that's really about it. That's what I notice all over the world, wherever I go.
Yeah, that's really cool. It's cool to have those kinds of experiences. And yeah, so thank you for talking to me. It's really cool to kind of get a behind the scenes look and
no problem, Kyle. We can do it another time.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you again for taking the time. Good luck in the off season. Hoping to see you and Caty more in the news.
Thanks, Kyle. Appreciate it, bud.
Thanks.
Have a nice one. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
You too. You as well. Thanks, Kevin.
Bye now.
All right, you guys, that was the interview with Kevin O'Neill. As you guys were hearing, he has a lot of connections in the world. It's kind of crazy to think that he used to work for Paul Annacone, who now coaches on the tour. Very popular name. He coached Taylor Fritz for a little bit. Might actually still be coaching him. I can't remember off the top of my head. But anyway, it is interesting to hear about the different connections that he has. And I just love his energy. He just radiates positivity. I'll have his Instagram tag, and if you guys go look at it for 30 seconds, it just describes this interview perfectly, because all he posts are motivational speeches, things to be uplifting to the followers that he has, and I'm sure to himself as well. He has a great energy as a tennis coach, and it's something to aspire to be as both a tennis player and as a coach. So I was really happy to talk with him. I hope it was beneficial for you guys listening in. I'm looking to try and get some more people on the podcast. I'm trying to balance my college life and doing podcasts and stuff like that. So I am working on it. Hopefully I can start pumping out some more episodes. If you guys did like this one and want to hear more, make sure you follow me on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. I think I'm also on Google Podcasts, if I remember correctly. And then also on YouTube, I do have the comment section open on YouTube, so people can actually give me some feedback there. If you're hearing this not on YouTube, and I also have the live video call uploaded there to the Tennis Junkies YouTube, which should be in the show notes. If it's not, it's the exact same name as the podcast. So make sure you guys give it a follow. Let me know if there's anyone in particular you want me to reach out to try and talk to. And I really appreciate you guys listening into this one. Hopefully it was helpful. We'll see you in the next one.